The sun-warmed deck of a research vessel rocks gently beneath your feet. Somewhere in the western Atlantic Ocean, the water stretches endlessly in every direction, a deep blue that seems to hold secrets beneath its surface. You're floating above one of the most feared patches of ocean on Earth, though you might not realize it from the gentle waves lapping against the hull. This is the Bermuda Triangle. For decades, it has captured imaginations with tales of vanishing ships and aircraft, of compasses spinning wildly, of entire crews disappearing without a trace. The stories have become legend. Pilots report their instruments going haywire before vanishing forever. Ships send distress signals that cut to silence. Entire squadrons of military aircraft simply evaporate from radar screens, leaving behind nothing but questions and fear. For more than half a century, this triangular stretch of ocean between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico has been painted as a place where the natural laws of physics bend and break, where reality itself becomes unreliable. But what if everything you've been told about the Bermuda Triangle is wrong? What if this legendary mystery, this supernatural anomaly that has spawned countless books, documentaries, and sleepless nights, is nothing more than a carefully constructed myth? The truth, as it often does, lies not in the extraordinary, but in the beautifully ordinary workings of our world. The story begins not with disappearing ships or mysterious forces, but with a writer named Vincent Gaddis. Sitting at his typewriter in 1964, Gaddis was crafting an article for Argosy magazine, a publication known for its sensational stories and dramatic headlines. He needed a name for the patch of ocean where several notable incidents had occurred, and so he coined a phrase that would echo through popular culture for generations: the Bermuda Triangle. Before that February day in 1964, this region had no special name, no particular reputation for danger. It was simply part of the Atlantic Ocean, as unremarkable as any other stretch of saltwater. Gaddis drew his triangle carefully, connecting 3 points on a map with straight lines. Florida's tip formed one corner, the island of Bermuda another, and Puerto Rico completed the shape. Within this imaginary boundary, he gathered a collection of maritime mysteries spanning several decades. Some were genuine tragedies, and a few were complete fabrications. But together, they formed the foundation of what would become one of the most persistent myths of the modern age. The timing was perfect. The 1960s were years of rapid change and growing fascination with the unexplained. Television was bringing strange stories into living rooms across America. Science fiction was flourishing, and the public appetite for mystery was insatiable. Gaddis had tapped into something deeper than mere curiosity about lost ships. He had created a modern folklore, a place where the rational world could be suspended and wonder could flourish. Within a few years, other writers began to expand on Gaddis's work. Charles Berlitz, a language instructor turned author, published The Bermuda Triangle in 1974, and the myth exploded into mainstream consciousness. Berlitz's book sold millions of copies, weaving together incidents from across decades with dramatic flair and scientific-sounding theories. He spoke of magnetic anomalies and interdimensional portals, of alien abductions and lost civilizations. The book became a bestseller, and suddenly everyone knew about the Triangle. But even as Berlitz was writing the sensational account, researchers were quietly uncovering a different story. They found that many of the incidents he described had been dramatically embellished or taken completely out of context. Weather reports had been ignored. Human error had been downplayed. Mundane explanations had been dismissed in favor of supernatural ones. The myth was being built on a foundation of selective storytelling and wishful thinking. Consider the case that perhaps best illustrates this pattern: the disappearance of Flight 19. On December 5, 1945, 5 Navy Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale on a routine training mission. They were led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, an experienced pilot who had logged thousands of flight hours. The mission was simple: fly east, conduct bombing practice, then return to base. It should have taken about 2 hours, But something went wrong. Taylor's compass began malfunctioning, and in the hazy afternoon light over the ocean, he became disoriented. Radio transmissions reveal a pilot growing increasingly confused about his location. "I don't know where we are," Taylor radioed to his base. "We must have got lost after that last turn." The other pilots in his formation, trained to follow their leader, stayed with him as he searched for landmarks in an endless expanse of water and scattered islands. Hours passed, fuel ran low. Ground control tried desperately to guide the flight home, but Taylor, convinced he was over the Florida Keys when he was actually hundreds of miles away, refused to turn north toward the mainland. As darkness fell and fuel gauges approached empty, the 5 aircraft disappeared from radio contact. They were never found. In the retelling by Bermuda Triangle enthusiasts, Flight 19 became something far more mysterious. Taylor's compass problems were attributed to supernatural interference rather than a simple mechanical failure. His disorientation was painted as evidence of otherworldly forces rather than the tragic result of a pilot's mistake in challenging conditions. Even the loss of a rescue plane that crashed while searching for Flight 19 was woven into the supernatural narrative, despite clear evidence that it had exploded due to a fuel leak. The truth about Flight 19 reveals something important about how myths are born. Every element that made the story supernatural had a perfectly ordinary explanation. Compass failures were common in aircraft of that era. Getting lost over the ocean, especially in poor weather conditions, was a known risk. Fuel exhaustion was a constant concern for pilots of the day. But these mundane realities were swept aside in favor of a more exciting story. Similar patterns emerge when we examine other famous Bermuda Triangle cases. The USS Cyclops, a Navy cargo ship that vanished in 1918, has been cited as evidence of the Triangle's supernatural power. But the Cyclops was carrying a dangerous cargo of manganese ore, was overloaded beyond safe limits, and disappeared during a period of severe weather. The ship's structural problems were well documented before its final voyage. Its disappearance, while tragic, requires no supernatural explanation. Meanwhile, in the waters of the Atlantic, something far more interesting than supernatural forces was at work. The region encompassed by the Bermuda Triangle is one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world. Thousands of vessels pass through these waters every year, carrying cargo between North America and the Caribbean. The skies above are equally busy, with countless aircraft following established flight corridors between the mainland, United States, and the islands to the south. With such heavy traffic, it would be strange if accidents didn't occur. But when researchers actually examined the statistics, they found something surprising. The number of disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle was no higher than in any other heavily traveled area of similar size. The waters off Cape Horn, the shipping lanes near the English Channel, the busy air corridors over the North Atlantic, all showed similar rates of loss and accident. The Triangle was remarkable only for the attention it received, not for any unusual number of incidents. The ocean itself, however, does hold genuine dangers that help explain some of the Triangle's reputation. The Gulf Stream, a powerful current that flows through this region, can quickly carry debris far from where an accident occurred, making recovery efforts difficult. The stream's warm waters can also create sudden, violent weather changes that catch mariners and pilots off guard. Beneath the surface, the seafloor drops away into some of the deepest trenches in the Atlantic. Wreckage that sinks here may never be found, adding to the mystery of vessels that seem to simply vanish. The area is also known for sudden, powerful storms that can develop with little warning, especially during hurricane season. These natural phenomena, working together, create conditions where accidents can occur and evidence can disappear, leaving behind only questions. The magnetic properties of the region, often cited as evidence of supernatural activity, also have earthly explanations. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the few places on Earth where magnetic north and true north align, a phenomenon called the agonic line. For pilots and sailors unfamiliar with this quirk of navigation, it can cause confusion and disorientation. But it's a well-understood scientific phenomenon, not evidence of otherworldly interference. As the decades passed, the Bermuda Triangle became more than just a geographic curiosity. It became a cultural phenomenon, feeding on itself and growing stronger with each retelling. Movies were made featuring pilots flying into shimmering portals. Television shows explored theories about alien bases beneath the waves. Books continued to be published, each one adding new layers to the mythology. The persistence of the myth reveals something fascinating about human nature. We are drawn to mystery, to the possibility that our rational, predictable world might contain pockets of the impossible. The idea that there might be places where normal rules don't apply appeals to something deep in our collective imagination. It suggests that for all our scientific understanding, the world still holds secrets waiting to be discovered. But there's a cost to embracing myth over reality. The families of those who actually lost loved ones in genuine accidents find their grief complicated by supernatural theories. Real tragedies become fodder for sensational stories. The dedicated work of Coast Guard rescuers, air traffic controllers, and maritime safety officials gets overshadowed by tales of vanishing into other dimensions. Perhaps most importantly, focusing on imaginary mysteries distracts us from the real challenges of ocean safety and aviation. The waters of the Atlantic are genuinely dangerous, not because of supernatural forces, but because of the immense power of nature itself. Storms can sink ships. Mechanical failures can down aircraft. Human error, fatigue, and poor judgment can turn routine voyages into disasters. These are the real enemies that sailors and pilots face, and they deserve our serious attention. Today, modern technology has largely eliminated the mystery that once shrouded the Bermuda Triangle. GPS navigation has replaced unreliable compasses. Satellite communication keeps aircraft and ships in constant contact with ground control. Weather radar can spot dangerous storms hours before they arrive. Emergency beacons can guide rescuers to survivors even in the vast emptiness of the ocean. The result has been a dramatic improvement in safety. Commercial aviation has become extraordinarily safe, with accident rates dropping to historic lows. Modern ships are equipped with systems that would have seemed like magic to sailors of earlier generations. The kind of disappearances that fed the Bermuda Triangle legend simply don't happen anymore, at least not without leaving clear evidence of what went wrong. Yet the myth persists, sustained by an industry of books, documentaries, and websites that continue to profit from the mystery. New incidents are occasionally added to the Triangle's collection of stories, though they invariably turn out to have conventional explanations when examined closely. The legend has become self-sustaining, immune to contrary evidence, because it serves a deeper need than mere explanation. Standing again on that research vessel, floating in the calm waters of the Western Atlantic, you might feel a sense of disappointment. There are no mysterious forces at work here, no portals to other dimensions, no alien bases hidden beneath the waves. There is only the ocean, vast and powerful and occasionally dangerous, but operating according to laws we understand. But perhaps there's a different kind of wonder to be found in the truth. The real story of the Bermuda Triangle is the story of how myths are born and why they survive. It's a tale of human creativity and our endless capacity for storytelling. It reveals how we construct meaning from random events, how we prefer exciting lies to boring truths, and how powerful narratives can persist long after the evidence has proven them false. The Triangle's greatest mystery, in the end, is not why ships and planes disappear, but why we needed them to disappear mysteriously at all. In our rational, well-mapped world, we created a place where magic could still exist, where the impossible remained possible. And perhaps that tells us something more profound about human nature than any supernatural explanation ever could. The ocean stretches away in all directions, blue and eternal and utterly ordinary. The real Bermuda Triangle was never a place at all, but a story we told ourselves about the places we fear to go.